Now we are recording. Did everyone hear that recording started thing? Where it's like recordings? Okay, I didn't, so that's why I wondered. Okay. And I want to send this to you later as well, so I'll keep those two up. In fact, let me just put them right here in the chat for now. These are just some external sites to kind of help you as a Ruby developer think about REST. Core Catcept, yes, exactly. I love that. It's a Core Catcept. In one of my old classes that I taught, I used cats as a lot of examples. It was just, I had cats and it was easy to do. And about halfway through the semester, I started to say like catastrophe. And one of the students thought I was going to say cat. And he said, please no more cats. So if you ever do get tired of any of my examples, probably someone said it ruder than you before, so don't worry. All right. I'm just going to put this in the chat too, even though. There you go. All right, forms. We're going to talk about how HTML forms work, how form data is passed, which is really the part of being a backend developer that's going to become most crucial to you, and using view helpers to create HTML forms and buttons. We're also going to use some of our task manager again. Love the task manager. So let's see, do we want to start with the discussion questions? Let's go back to those. Let's start here. So what is a form? I think we all know that. I'm not going to make you answer it, right? Forms are used to collect input. And when we speak about forms in particular on the web, we think about the fields where people enter in like their name and they might sign up for an account somewhere, or you can have a form where you log into something. You can have a form where you enter something and it goes and posts to a database, right? Pretty straightforward as far as that. Usually a form will have like the submit button. What is the submit button tied to? A post, right? Or depending on if it needs to be an update, it might be patch. It might be a delete. When you hit the submit button, it triggers a delete action. There's actually a lot going on with forms that you might not immediately think of. Now, most of today's form lesson is actually working together. But before we head off into that, see if there's anything else here I want to cover before we do our first breakout. Nope, I think we want to just dive in and see how we do, and then we'll come back together. So what I want you to do is start with new artist form. And I want you to go all the way down to, not the bottom, but through buttons, and stop here. Don't move on to edit artist form yet. So let me put that in the chat. New artist form and button, stop at edit artist form. And it would be great if when I dropped in, I saw some screen sharing and some collaboration. I would love that. Maybe some dancing while you're coding. That part I won't hold you to. But let's go ahead. And for this, I'm going to give you, since we have 2 hours to work on this, let's start with 30 minutes. And then I will check in. I'll go around to the room, see how everyone is doing, and I will update in the chat whether we're going to stay a little bit longer or not, okay? Sound good? Make sense? Any questions before we break out? Okay, Caroline?
Is there a certain branch that we should be on for this?
That's a great question. Let's see if it says. I think Jameson might have already left.
I'm here.
Are
I
you here?
think the setlist tutorial repo is probably what most people have. Let me
Okay.
take a quick look at the branches and
Yeah,
see
if
if
you
I
don't
can
mind.
answer that for y'all. Give me 1 second.
Oh, I feel like I got my exercise today. Yeah.
Yes.
Antonio looks like he's like ready to work out now.
So at first glance, it looks like the branch songs_show from the setlist tutorial repo is probably the best one. It has a spec folder, so we should be all ready to create a feature test, but it doesn't have anything about artists that I can tell. So if that's not true, Kelly, I'll kind of leave it up to you, but I'll drop the repo and the branch name in the chat right now.
Perfect, thank you.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking 30 minutes. Yeah, let's just do 30 minutes because I don't want you to be twiddling your thumbs just in case. All right, we've got that. I'm gonna make breakout rooms. Now, before I make these, I made 5 or 6 breakout rooms last time. Were your groups too big or too little? Because I can make more or less. Were they right? Were they perfect? Perfect. Okay. Caroline's is perfect. Marlos is perfect. Gunner's is too big. Okay. Hold on. Let's see. Oh, can I change how many I make? Okay. Well, for now, we're going to do that. Sorry, Gunner, but I will figure out how to maybe make them a little bit smaller. Oh, I can add a room. There we go. Okay. Go forth. I'm going to pause the recording just briefly. Hold on. Back to focusing again. Okay. Sorry, that's my oven. All right. Who would like to share? You're going to sit here watching me do this till someone shares. You can't wear me down. Okay, I really do hate calling on people, but I am going to call on someone in about 2 minutes. 1 minute. Oh, raised hands. Here we go. All right. Let's do Elliot and then Marla. Thank you. Just walk us through your code a little bit.
Sorry, let me bring up the thing. So what did we start with?
Wherever you
the
like.
Create artist part. So I'll go down to the spec file first.
Mhm.
So here's the test, I
Mhm.
guess. Pretty much exactly what was in the lesson plan, but
Mhm.
you start out by visiting the artist URL, URI, and then you click the link new artist. So it's kind of expecting a link to be there. Then once you click the link, it's expecting you to go to this new URI, which will have a form to fill in that has like one of the form things say name filled in with Megan, then another button that you click on saying create artist, which then it's expecting you to redirect to your artist index, and then also expecting that to have the name Megan in it.
Okay.
So to do that, first create your links or your routes. So how to make a artist index page, and then start it off with creating the path or the route to our artists new
Mhm,
with the controller artists and the action new.
mhm,
So from there, the error was saying go make a new action, or I guess new artist controller in general. So
mhm.
created that with our index and then def new just to get that rolling. And then think back in the routes, we also needed a create button or a create action for the I guess to create the artists
Mhm. Yeah.
and post it to our artists thing.
Mhm.
Which that's not right now that I'm looking at it. I have
So
a quick question.
what do you think? Oh, go ahead. Go with your question.
Everything's working. I was just
Mhm.
wondering, is this first slash super necessary on all of these? If it still works?
Yes. I believe so. Let me do a little bit of external research. Let me make a little note on that to double check. But I've always done the slash and not really played with it without the slash. So let me find out.
Gotcha. I know it was causing issues in the relational rails, but I don't
Mhm.
think it was in the routes. I think it was in a different thing.
What issues are you
I don't actually remember.
having? Okay.
It was something to do with the slash, but once you throw the slash in, it started working again.
Yeah.
But yeah, you were about to ask a question.
Oh, I was gonna ask the follow-up on why you thought that didn't look correct. But I think that you answered it about the slash.
Gotcha. Cool.
Mhm.
Yeah. So then from there, you go to your index thing. So it's an expect a button
Mhm.
or expect an edit button.
Mhm.
No, wait, here we go. This button up here. Sorry. So expecting a link to our that's called new artist, and it's going to take us to our artist slash new. The method is get, since we're just kind of getting that URL and reading it.
Mhm.
And then that will take us to our new artist
Mhm.
page, and then created our form here
Mhm.
where it's gonna take us to our artists page. It's gonna
Yeah.
post to that page, and you have a label or a form text field, I guess, that
Mhm.
says name, and then a submit tag saying create artist.
Mhm.
And once you going back to our spec file, once you
Mhm.
click on create artist, it takes you to our artists, and
Mhm.
you'll have the name Megan. But I guess going off of that, with our so the new just takes you to that page.
Mhm.
This def create will create the artist with the
Mhm.
parameters from
Right.
down here, and then once you run that, it will redirect you to your artist page.
All right. Very good.
Yeah.
What questions do we have for Elliot? No questions? All right. Well, thank you for sharing, Elliot. You did great. Marla, are you comfortable sharing?
Sure.
I need to stop my share. Cool.
Oh gosh,
Bless you.
thank you. Okay, yeah, I mean, I guess it's very similar to Elliot's.
That's
Um, so do you want me to kind of walk through the same
Yeah.
thing or?
Yeah, and I know it seems a little like, but why am I walking through the same thing? But everybody has a different way of explaining. And so I just want to kind of make sure you all get practice explaining, and that also a lot of times somebody else will say, oh, it made sense when Marla put it this way or when Elliot put it that way. So that's why we're just going to kind of go over it again, if that's okay.
Yeah, no, that's great. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess I had to start with an index because there was not an index for the artist yet.
Mhm.
So I had to create that. So I'll go there first. Um, So yeah, I had my heading for my artists, and then I iterated through an artist's instance variable that I have. And that artist instance variable contains all instances of artists.
Mhm.
So I iterate through that, grab the artist name, and then I mean, this relates to what was later in the task,
Mhm.
but have the delete button associated with that. But I'll get into that a little later. So yeah, iterate through, and it lists out each artist name, and then at the bottom you'll have a link to new artist,
Mhm.
and that will route to artists/new.
Mhm.
So in my new spec, basically I had the spec visit artists, click
Mhm.
on that link, new artists, on line 8, and then expected the current path to be artist/new, which is where I was sending
Mhm.
that link to. Through that, I had to go to my routes page, and I had to use a get method for
Mhm.
artist/new to send it over to the new method in controller.
Mhm.
My little Zoom stuff keeps popping up, so it's hard to navigate some of these. Okay, yeah. So then in my artist controller, I didn't really have to put anything in the new method because there wasn't any new information that I was needing to send through. I just needed to basically route the request
Mhm.
to a new view,
Mhm.
to the new view. So that sends it through the controller to the new view here, which has my form where you can create a new artist. And this form contains, it's a post method, and it'll send it to artists,
Mhm.
URL artists. And then the form contains a text field to fill in for name, as well as a submit button. And so in my testing, I had Capybara fill in the name field with Megan, and then click on the create artist button that was part of the form.submit.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then after that, I expected the current path to be /artist because I wanted it to send me back to the index page so I could see all the artists that are in the database listed.
Mhm.
And I expected the page to have the content Megan because that's the new one we just added in.
Mhm.
And so in that passed, my index went through and it showed artist Megan there.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then for the delete, similar thing. I had 2 artists. I deviated a little bit from the instructions, I guess.
Mhm.
And I put 2 artists in the RSpec
Mhm.
um, to double check that there was one that was gone and one that would
Mhm.
still be there.
Mhm.
I guess I actually could probably make my testing more rigorous by still expecting to have that content after I
Mhm.
press delete. But yeah, so I visited the artists page, the index page, and I added a delete link. So it iterated through each artist, and each artist had a delete link that was associated to that specific artist. So the text that would appear on the page would be delete, and then that artist's name, and the link that it would be routed through would be artist / that artist's ID.
Mhm.
Method was delete. So then in my routes, I sent it through delete with the dynamic ID
Mhm.
here, and then that routed it through the controller to the delete method.
Mhm.
Got a Zoom thing popping up again. Let's see. There we go. And then this delete method, I basically found the artist that I wanted to destroy through the
Mhm.
ID parameter that was passed in through the URL or
Mhm.
through the URI, and then redirected that back to the artist index page so that I could check up and see if it was actually deleted. And Capybara confirmed that that artist's name was no longer listed on the artist index page.
Cool. Great. That's great, Marla. Antonio, did you have a question for Marla?
Yeah, Marla, can you go to your, I think it's new HTML .erb file with the form on it, the form code.
Yeah.
So you have form.label name and then in quotations name after that. I haven't come across
Yeah.
that yet. So what does that do exactly when you have the quotation name?
So it actually puts the name label text on the page, because when I do just colon name, it'll basically just connect it to my text field so that it knows that this form label and this text field are associated. And then when I add here, so I could change this to like put a name here, and then that would appear on my site as put a name here, and then you'd have the empty text field.
Do you think we
next to
could visualize this? Because I'm not doing that and I'm still getting the name, but I guess, are you saying that you can put anything within quotes and it'll replace name with whatever else you put into quotes?
Yeah, I've been doing that on my project, so I think so. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but it's been working for me so far. So I'm assuming yes. I don't know if Kelly, if there's something else I'm
not, I was gonna say, I'm actually not 100% sure. I think that we should definitely try to visualize that.
Okay.
You
Do
wanna
you
do
have
it?
a way of?
Yeah, let me put my server up and
Yeah. And then after this, I will get to your question, Caroline.
Can you do a save and open page in the RSpec? Does
Oh,
that
yeah,
do the same
that's
thing?
actually, that'll be easier. You're right. Yeah, let me do that. Because I don't have a landing page set up here. So let me do it in my index.
If you do it in the new, it'll show the form with that name of it.
You're right. You're right. Mm-hmm.
It's hard being the driver, don't worry. It's very hard.
Okay, let's try this again. Okay. Finish with- I'm gonna turn my video off because
Sure.
sometimes the computer's very slow with the video on. Oh, I put it in the wrong spot. Right?
Mm,
Oh yeah, because I did
Yeah.
create. Yeah. Ah. Let's try this again. So
okay.
there I have name, and then if I do and run this again. Let's see. Yeah.
Yep.
Now, if you get rid of, put your name here altogether, it'll probably still say name, I imagine.
Let's find out.
Let's see.
Only one way to know. Yep.
It does.
Very cool.
Good to know.
Yeah, very cool. Thank you for doing that, Marla. It is very difficult to be the one driving while people are asking to code. And that's great practice because you all will have to do that at interviews. So very good practice. Thank you. Caroline, did you have a question for Marla or the group?
I guess Marla or you could answer this. Either way works. So for the new HTML ERB file and the index HTML ERB file, could you explain the difference between form with and link to and the associated URI that goes with
Mhm.
that, because I was getting a little confused on what to put there
Mhm.
sometimes.
Sure. Can
Um,
anybody help Caroline? Help get us started? I thought Marla had her hand up and then she put it down.
That was from before.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But I was about to call on you again. So you are looking for the difference between, what were the two?
So in the new.html.erb file,
Mhm.
there's the syntax form with, and then there's
Mhm.
the URL with that. And then in the index.html.erb file, there's link to, and then there's a link associated with that as well.
Mhm.
And I was just wondering what which URI should
Mhm.
actually go there. Because I feel like sometimes I was getting it right and sometimes I was just kind of guessing.
Mhm. Can you share your screen to show it to us?
Sure. One sec. Yeah, so like,
Mhm.
I mean, I get that this is working, but I'd like clarification on like what is expected to go here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I need to sit down with you and look at it a little better just because my mental map is a little harder to kind of cling to figure it out this morning. So does anyone have anything they want to say though before? Yep, Brian.
So the way I look at it is
Mhm.
the link to and the form with, is that where the question is, like the difference
Mhm.
between, or
Mhm.
so link to is basically replacing an A
Yeah.
HTML tag. And
Mhm.
then the second argument is the href,
Mhm.
whereas like the form is replacing a form tag,
Right.
and you're linking like where its action's going to go.
Mhm.
So it's like you could change link to button to, and you'd really have no change in functionality.
Mhm.
But like form with,
Yeah.
you'd have to start with form with, because that would give you all the functionality to do like a submit or
Mhm.
a select drop down or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yep, absolutely. This is really another one of those fun parts of programming where you kind of just have to play around with it a lot and sort of figure out to you, like, oh, okay, that's what I think it's doing then. Karina, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, so I guess when it's Corinna, just
Corinna, sorry.
it's okay. The link to and the button to like makes sense to me that the path that we have there is where when we either click or the button, it's going to take us to. But I think, Caroline, I'm with you for the from with the URL path there
Mhm.
has been a little fuzzy for me as well.
Okay.
Like,
Let me make a note of that.
I
We
don't
can-
really
So
understand.
for link to the, like, this is where you
Mhm.
will go after
Mhm.
you click on that button.
Yeah.
And but so with the form, it's when you're creating an artist, like it's posting it over to the
Right.
artist's index.
Mhm.
Whereas when you want to create that new artist, so you need a link to it, you're actually going to a new page
Yeah.
to then access the form itself.
The way that I kind of look at it, sorry to chime in,
No,
is with
great.
link _2,
Mhm.
you're basically having to provide two pieces of information.
Yeah.
The first part is the link, and like what the name of the link is, new artist, and then you're sending, whenever you click on that link, it's taking you to
Mhm.
artist/new.
Right.
And then with form with, you're going to submit information. Where do you want that information to end up? Well, you
Right.
want it to end up on the artist index page.
Mhm. Yep.
I think a good follow-up would be if you changed link to method to post, within that act the same way as a form submission.
Let's try it.
I'm sorry, where?
So like with the link to where it says method get, I wonder if we did that as a post, if that would have sort of the same functionality as like a form submit button.
What do you think?
It says no route matches post.
Mhm.
I guess I'd have to like make a new route and everything.
Yep.
Is that
Yep.
something you have to do now?
You don't need to do it right now.
Okay. All right, that answered my question. Thank you.
Can I chime in here a little bit before
Yep.
you stop screen sharing,
do.
Caroline? Well, thanks. Yeah, I would, one thing I would keep in mind here when trying to get comfortable with the Rails view helpers like form with and link to and button to is maybe just think to yourself about Task Manager and all the raw HTML that you had to write to get the same functionality. So if you all think back to writing a form with just HTML, you probably had to include something like an authenticity token. You had to manually type out all of the inputs, and the form with is giving us this syntax that yes has like basically an href, a place for us to put the URI, and that's the form with URL syntax saying, hey, we're posting to this URI. Look for this in the routes file when you receive this request. And then it also gives you things like this form block variable. So on line 2, you can say form.label name instead of typing out, open bracket, label space, whatever, and having to manually do all that HTML. The other small thing that I'll note is that I believe button 2 will default to a post. So button 2 in my mind is a little bit more like a form than link to, but you can override those methods that it defaults to. So just a couple things that I would keep in
Yeah.
mind. Yeah, but great questions and
Great
observations.
questions.
Yeah.
Button 2 does default to a post. Okay, that's awesome. Thank you so much, everybody, for sharing and for your really great questions. Were there any more raised hands? Or Marla and Antonio? Oh, Marla, you had a question?
Yeah, I had a question. It's the button to / link to, I guess, like versus. I read on a Stack Overflow that you're not supposed to use button to unless it's like within a form or something, or like it's not conventional, or
Mhm,
unless you want it to specifically be a post.
mhm.
Is that accurate, or like should we be avoiding using button to and just using link to?
I've always used button 2, but in that specific scenario. Jameson, do you have any insight you'd like to add?
I think for mod 2, like if you're thinking about this in a project context and you're trying to decide between using a button 2 or a link to for something like, I don't know, going to a child index or removing a record, I don't think we have a strong preference in the user stories if it says, and this link does XYZ, or if this button and this button does XYZ. In my mind, either one are fine. That would be something to check with your company. Like once you start a job, like, hey, can I use a button for this context where it's a GET request? Is that okay? Because I think every team will have a slightly different opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
For us, I don't think
agree.
it makes that much of a difference. You can use either.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank
Yeah.
you.
I wholeheartedly agree. I think a lot of the things that are like almost semantic, like, oh, but does that do what I want? Your first team you're on will most likely have a very strong opinion about it, and you'll go with their opinion at that point in time, most likely. Okay, awesome. So let's wrap this up because we are running a little shorter than I thought. Share screen. Okay, so we have gotten down through button. I would really like us to try and get through edit artist and query. We have a half an hour left, so I'm going to put you in the breakout rooms and try to get as far as you can. When the half hour is over, I'll take us out and we'll all have our lunch break. And then if you want to talk to me or Jameson about this, we have office hours this week and we can look at your finished form if you like. Does that sound good? Quickly, do you prefer breakout rooms or do you prefer everyone turns their camera off and works alone for this? Are there any strong opinions either way? And I have to find the chat. The chat's hiding again. Solo, we got one solo, breakout.
Kelly,
Either, we're gonna do breakout. We've got enough breakouts. I did notice with these breakout rooms, because Gunnar was talking about them being a little big, in one they put 5 and in one they put 3, and then all the rest are 4. So I don't understand why Zoom decided to do that today. But next time I will make sure the breakout rooms are a little bit more evenly done. Okay, so are we all comfortable? What's the plan for the rest of the day or rest of this period? We're gonna finish it up, get as far as you can. And if you want to show it to us later, just ping me or Jameson or together, and we'll figure that time out for you, okay? Awesome, okay. Breakout rooms, and I will pull them at noon/1, so you'll know when it's over. Breakout room, here we go. Unassigned 3. Hold on. Oh, that's James. Okay, Marla did just send you, and Scott, did you both just get a breakout room invite? Yep. There we go. Okay. For some reason, it wasn't putting them in a breakout room this time.
I think I probably like threw a few things off when I jumped back on the call.
Doesn't matter.
The rest is work time. Do you think we're good to stop recording?
Yes.
Cool, cool.